Ladies and gentlemen, my dear ones, I stand here not to tell you something new, but to remind you of what you already know deep in your bones. You were not born to be ordinary. You were not placed here to shrink, to fold, to cower under the weight of doubt. No, you were given breath so you could rise. Self-motivation is the fire that does not wait for the wind to blow before it burns. It is the sun that does not ask permission to shine. It is the whisper in your spirit that says, go on now, get up, try again. It is knowing that even if your hands are trembling, even if your voice shakes, even if the road is long and the night is dark, you move forward anyway. The mind is the master. What you believe you become, it is no secret, no hidden wisdom tucked away in ancient books or whispered in the quiet corners of the world. It is a truth as old as time itself. The mind is the sculptor of destiny, the architect of dreams, the quiet force behind every rise and every fall. What you believe about yourself, about your abilities, about the path before you, it all shapes the life you live. There is a story, one not written in ink, but lived in flesh and bone, in struggle and triumph. It is the story of the one who dared to believe, even when the world laughed, even when the mirror reflected doubt, even when the echoes of failure rang loud in their ears. And there is another story, a quieter one, the tale of the one who let fear write their ending before their beginning was ever truly lived. The difference between the two was not talent, not luck, not the stars that hung above them. The difference was belief. The mind can be a cage or it can be a key. It can lock you in fear, whispering that you are not enough, that the mountain is too high, that the world is too unkind. Or it can unlock doors you never knew existed, revealing strength you never imagined, pushing you toward victories you never thought possible. Every great soul who has ever walked this earth, every voice that has ever risen above the noise, every heart that has ever beat with purpose knew this: the greatest battle is within. Win that battle and the world will have no choice but to step aside. Some say motivation is fleeting, that it comes and goes like the tide, but belief, that is different. Belief roots itself deep in the bones, in the soul, in the spaces between fear and courage. It is not a passing spark. It is the steady flame that refuses to be put out. It is what makes a person rise at dawn, shake off the weight of yesterday, and step into the day as if it were carved just for them. It is what makes the broken heal, the weary press on, and the lost find their way. But belief is not given freely. It must be built. It must be shaped in the fires of struggle, refined in the quiet moments of doubt, and strengthened with each step forward. And once it is yours, truly yours, no force in the world can take it away. Not failure, not rejection, not even the loudest voices of disbelief. The truth is, the mind does not care what you feed it. It will grow whatever seeds you plant. Plant fear, and fear will thrive. Plant doubt, and doubt will spread its roots deep. But plant courage, plant faith in yourself, plant the unwavering belief that you were made for more, and watch how the world changes around you. So let today be the day you choose to believe, not tomorrow, not when the road is easier, not when the world claps for you. Believe now, even if the applause is only your own. Believe now, even if the path is uncertain. Believe now, because your future is listening, waiting, unfolding with every thought you dare to hold. And when you doubt, as all do, when the weight of the world feels heavy on your back, remember this: you are not what the world says you are. You are not your failures. You are not your past. You are what you decide to be. Decide wisely, believe fiercely, move boldly. The mind is the master. What you believe, you become. Self-motivation is not a gift. It is a choice you make daily. It does not come wrapped in ribbons, waiting at your doorstep. It is not handed down like an heirloom or bestowed upon the lucky few. No. Self-motivation is earned, built, and nurtured like a fire that must be fed, like a garden that must be tended. It is not the spark that starts the journey. It is the steady force that keeps you moving when the road stretches long and the winds blow strong against you. Many people wait. They wait for inspiration, for the right time, for some unseen force to pull them forward. But time moves for no one, and inspiration is a fickle thing, arriving when it pleases and vanishing just as quickly. Those who wait remain where they are, bound by hesitation, shackled by excuses. But those who understand the truth know that self-motivation is a decision, one that must be made not once, but over and over again, especially when no one is watching. It is easy to move when excitement is high, when the path is smooth, when the sun is shining. But what about the days when you wake up weary, when doubt lingers like a shadow, when failure whispers that maybe you should stop? That is when the real choice is made. That is when you decide whether you will succumb to the weight of your own uncertainty or stand tall, straighten your back, and press forward anyway. The ones who rise, the ones who reach, the ones who carve their names into the fabric of time are not the ones who never falter. They are the ones who fall and still choose to rise. They are the ones who keep moving even when the applause fades, even when progress feels slow, even when the world does not yet see the greatness brewing within them. They do not rely on motivation to arrive. Like a wave washing over them, they summon it, build it, demand it from themselves. You see, self-motivation is a habit, not a moment. It is the discipline of choosing effort over ease, commitment over comfort, and progress over perfection. It is waking up and deciding again and again that you will do the work. It is reminding yourself not once, but every single day why you started and why you cannot stop now. No one else can make that choice for you. They can encourage you, inspire you, push you, but at the end of the day, it is you who must take the step. It is you who must push through the resistance, silence the doubts, and keep going when every reason to stop feels justified. Some will call it persistence, some will call it resilience, but at its core, it is self-respect. It is knowing that your dreams, your purpose, your growth are worthy of your effort. It is understanding that no external force can ever replace the power of deciding deep in your soul that you will not quit on yourself. So choose today, choose again tomorrow, choose every single day after that, because the world does not give you motivation. You create it, you earn it, and when you do, there is nothing you cannot become. The fire inside you must burn brighter than the obstacles before you. It is easy to look at the road ahead and see only the mountains, to see the sharp edges, the winding paths, the places where the footing is unsure. It is easy to look at the weight of your struggles and feel small beneath them. But you are not small. You are never small. The only thing that can truly stop you is the belief that you cannot go on. There is a fire within you, one that has been there since the day you took your first breath, a fire that flickers when you hesitate, that roars when you believe, that dims only when you allow doubt to settle where courage should be. This fire is your will, your strength, your hunger for something greater. It is the thing that refuses to be extinguished no matter how hard the winds of failure try to snuff it out. Every great soul who has walked before you, who has built, who has fought, who has created something lasting, each of them has known what it means to face an obstacle that felt impossible. They have known what it is to stand before something towering, something fierce, something that made them question if they had the strength to go on. And yet, they did. Not because the obstacles disappeared, but because their fire burned too brightly to be put out. You must feed your fire, guard it, nurture it. You must remind yourself every single day why you began, why you cannot turn back, why there is no other choice but forward. There will be moments when the flame flickers, when exhaustion settles in your bones, when the weight of the journey feels heavier than the dream itself. Those are the moments when you must fan the flames, when you must dig deep and find the part of you that refuses to quit. The world will place barriers before you. Some will be made of stone, some of doubt, some of voices that tell you to stop, to be realistic, to shrink. But the world does not get to decide how far you go. The world does not get to dictate the size of your fire. That is yours to protect, yours to build, yours to unleash upon anything that dares stand in your way. You are stronger than the struggle. You are greater than the difficulty. You are not meant to be contained, not meant to be dimmed, not meant to surrender at the first sign of hardship. You are meant to rise, to push through, to blaze forward with the kind of determination that turns barriers into stepping stones. So let your fire burn. Let it burn so fiercely that no obstacle can withstand it. Let it light your way when the path is dark. Let it remind you always that there is nothing ahead of you that is stronger than what is within you. Your purpose does not wait for permission. Claim it, own it, live it. No one will come knocking at your door with a neatly wrapped box handing you your destiny. No voice will call out from the sky telling you the time has arrived. No sign will light up in front of you declaring that you are finally ready. If you wait for permission to step into who you are meant to be, you will wait forever. Because the world does not give permission. It only watches to see who dares to take what is theirs. Some spend their whole lives waiting to be chosen, waiting for approval, waiting for someone to tell them they are worthy. But worth is not granted, it is recognized. It is something you decide for yourself. It is something you step into with both feet planted firmly, shoulders back, chin high, declaring without hesitation, this is who I am, and I will not be moved. Purpose does not whisper, it does not beg, it does not ask politely to be acknowledged. It is a fire in the belly, a calling in the bones, a restlessness that will not let you settle. It does not care if others understand. It does not wait for the perfect conditions, the right moment, or the applause of the world. It simply is, and it demands to be lived. You have felt it, haven't you? That pull, that knowing, that deep certainty that you were made for more. But fear has a way of creeping in, disguising itself as logic, as caution, as responsibility. It tells you to be careful, to wait a little longer, to not risk too much. But fear is a liar. It is a thief, and if you let it, it will steal your time, your dreams, your very life, while you are too busy seeking permission to notice. You do not need a title to be great. You do not need validation to begin. You do not need every answer before you take the first step. Purpose is not something you find, it is something you claim. You decide, you declare, you commit, and then you move. Even if your hands shake, even if your voice wavers, even if the road is uncertain, you move, because staying still is no longer an option. Not everyone will understand your path. Not everyone will cheer for you. Some will doubt you. Some will question you. Some will try to make you smaller because your courage reminds them of their own hesitation. But none of that matters because your purpose is not up for debate. It does not belong to the crowd. It belongs to you. And if you do not claim it, if you do not own it, if you do not step fully into the life that is waiting for you, then who will? If not now, then when? Do not wait, do not shrink, do not ask for permission to be exactly who you were meant to be. The world may not always be ready for you, but that is not your concern. Your concern is to stand in your truth, to move with intention, and to live like you know without a doubt that you were placed here for a reason. So step forward, step boldly, step into your purpose, because it has always been yours to claim. Discipline fuels motivation when inspiration fades. There will be days when you wake up and the fire inside you is dim. Days when the weight of your dreams feels heavier than the strength in your bones. Days when the excitement that once pushed you forward is nowhere to be found. That is when most people stop. That is when most people say, maybe this isn't for me, but not you. Because you understand something they don't. Motivation is not what carries you to the finish line. It is discipline. Motivation is a spark, a fleeting burst of energy, a wind that comes and goes as it pleases. It is what gets you started, but it is not what keeps you moving. Because motivation is unreliable. It is a guest that does not always show up when you need it, and if you rely on it, if you wait for it, you will find yourself stuck, waiting for something that was never meant to stay. Discipline is different. Discipline does not ask how you feel. Discipline does not care if you are tired, if the weather is bad, if you do not want to do the work today. Discipline is the force that gets you up anyway. It is the quiet, steady commitment that says, I will show up no matter what. Every great achievement, every towering success, every story of perseverance was built not on bursts of motivation, but on the backbone of discipline. It is what separates those who dream from those who do. The ones who rise are not the ones who felt inspired every day. They're the ones who showed up even when they didn't. Think of the artist who paints when the inspiration is gone, the athlete who trains when their body is sore, the writer who writes when the words refuse to come. Think of the builder who lays brick after brick, not because they feel like it every day, but because they know that the work must be done. That is discipline. That is what turns effort into excellence, what turns struggle into strength. It is easy to be great when you feel like being great, but true greatness is built on the days when you don't. On the days when you would rather rest, when doubt whispers in your ear, when nothing about the journey feels exciting. That is when discipline steps in, takes you by the hand and says, we go on. Some people search for motivation like it is the missing piece of the puzzle, as if the right words, the right inspiration, the right feeling will suddenly make the road easy. But the road is never easy, and the work does not wait for the perfect moment. The ones who make it are the ones who commit to the journey no matter what. And discipline is not something you are born with. It is something you build, something you strengthen, something you choose day after day. It is a muscle that grows each time you push through the resistance, each time you refuse to make an excuse, each time you honor the promise you made to yourself. So when motivation fades, when the excitement is gone, when the work feels hard and the road feels long, remember this. You do not need to feel ready. You do not need to feel inspired. You just need to keep going. Because the difference between success and regret is not found in the moments of passion, but in the hours of discipline that no one sees. You are stronger than your failures and wiser because of them. Failure will knock at your door uninvited and unwelcome. It will come in many forms. A missed opportunity, a wrong decision, a moment when you fell short of what you hoped to achieve. It will whisper lies in your ear, telling you that you are not enough, that this is where your journey ends, that maybe you were never meant to succeed in the first place. But those are just echoes of doubt, not the truth. The truth is failure is not the end. It is the lesson. It is the test. It is the refining fire that separates those who are merely interested in success from those who are truly committed to it. Some people see failure as a stop sign, a signal to turn back, a confirmation that they should have never tried in the first place. But others, those who rise, those who build, those who carve their names into the world, see it differently. They see failure for what it really is, proof that they dared, proof that they reached, proof that they were brave enough to step into the unknown. And instead of running from it, they learn from it. They let it sharpen them, strengthen them, make them wiser than they were before. You do not grow in comfort. You do not learn the depth of your strength when everything comes easily. Strength is built in the moments when you fall and find the courage to stand again. It is built when you look at failure not as a verdict, but as a teacher. And oh, what a teacher it is. Failure teaches resilience, patience, discipline. It strips away what is weak, revealing what is strong. It does not exist to break you. It exists to build you. Think about the people who have achieved greatness, not the ones who were handed success, but the ones who fought for it. Their stories are not without failure. In fact, their stories are made of failure. They lost, they struggled, they made mistakes, but they did not stop. That is the difference. That is what set them apart. Not that they never failed, but that they never let failure define them. And the same is true for you. You are not the mistakes you have made. You are not the setbacks you have faced. You are the strength that carried you forward, the wisdom you gained, the fire that refused to go out. Every failure has given you something, a lesson, a new perspective, a moment of growth. You are wiser now than you were before, stronger than you were yesterday. So do not fear failure. Do not let it silence you. Do not let it convince you that you are anything less than capable. Let it fuel you. Let it teach you. Let it remind you that every great success is built on a foundation of lessons learned the hard way. And the next time you stumble, the next time you fall, the next time doubt tries to creep in, remind yourself you have been here before and you rose. You have faced difficulty before and you overcame. You have fallen before and still you stand because you are stronger than your failures and wiser because of them. Your mind is the battlefield and your thoughts decide the outcome. Before you take a single step, before you lift a hand to build, before you dare to chase after what is yours, the real battle is fought within. It is there, in the quiet spaces of your mind, where success is either won or lost. It is there that you decide whether you will rise or retreat, whether you will push forward or surrender to the weight of doubt. Your thoughts shape your path long before your feet ever touch the ground. What you tell yourself in the dark moments matters. What you whisper to yourself when no one is watching matters, because the words you speak to your own soul either build you up or tear you down. You must choose them wisely. You must guard your mind fiercely, protecting it from the voices, both internal and external, that try to convince you that you are not enough. Doubt will come, it always does. It will try to tell you that you are too small, too late, too far behind to catch up. It will disguise itself as logic, as realism, as the voice of caution. It will remind you of every mistake you have made, every time you have fallen short, every reason why your dream should not belong to you. But you must understand this: doubt is a liar, and its only purpose is to keep you from your destiny. The ones who win are not the ones who never feel fear. They are the ones who refuse to let fear decide their fate. They are the ones who, in the face of uncertainty, choose belief. Not because it is easy, not because the road is without struggle, but because they understand that a mind filled with faith is stronger than any challenge that stands in the way. Your mind is a garden, and your thoughts are the seeds. What you plant will grow. If you fill it with doubt, hesitation, and fear, you will harvest a life of limit. But if you fill it with strength, with faith, with the unshakable belief that you are capable of more than you have ever imagined, then nothing, no obstacle, no setback, no failure will be able to stop you. You must train your mind like you train your body. Feed it with words of power. Surround it with voices that uplift. Reject the thoughts that do not serve you, the ones that make you small, the ones that try to convince you to settle. And you must speak to yourself with the same fire and conviction that you would use to lift up someone you love. You must be your own greatest advocate, your own strongest supporter, your own source of unwavering belief. Because if you do not believe in yourself, who will? If you do not take command of your own mind, someone else will. And if you do not decide right now in this very moment that you are worthy, that you are capable, that you are powerful beyond measure, then you will spend your days living by the limits that fear has placed around you. But that is not your story. That is not your ending, because you know the truth. Every great thing begins in the mind. Every breakthrough, every success, every step forward starts with a single decision to believe. So choose your thoughts wisely, guard them like treasure. Fill your mind with the kind of power that makes doubt shrink in fear, because once you win the battle within, nothing outside of you can ever defeat you. You are the author of your story, the architect of your dreams, the force that shapes your destiny. No obstacle is greater than the fire within you. No failure is final unless you allow it to be. No dream is too big for a mind that refuses to surrender. You have within you the power to rise beyond your doubts, to claim your purpose without apology, to push forward even when motivation fades, to learn from every fall and to master the battlefield of your own mind. You are stronger than you know, wiser than you were yesterday, and more capable than you have ever imagined. So step boldly into your journey. Own your path. Walk forward with the kind of conviction that turns impossibility into reality. Let no fear, no failure, no doubt define you. The world is waiting for the greatness that only you can bring. Good luck on your journey, and may your fire never fade. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, children of the sun, listen. There is a power, a force, a fire that moves mountains, splits seas, and shapes the very world we walk upon. It is not found in the masses, not gathered in a storming crowd. No, it begins with one voice, one dream, one heart set to beat a little bolder, a little louder, a little longer than fear would allow. One woman rises before dawn, her hands worn, her back bent, but her spirit unshaken. One man stands when he is told to kneel, his voice steady, his eyes set on a horizon he may never reach, but one he knows must be walked toward. One child dares to believe that the world can be kinder, that justice can be sweeter, that love can be freer. And that one child, that one soul, is enough to make the heavens lean in close and listen. The world does not change because of grand plans left on paper. It does not shift because of dreams whispered in the dark with no steps taken toward them. It changes when one person decides that today, right now, in this very moment, they will no longer wait for someone else to act. Change begins with one thought, one decision, one step forward. It is never the crowd that moves first. It is the one who stands up before the others, the one who walks when the road is still dust, the one who refuses to be quiet when silence is easier. It has always been that way. A single seed cracks open beneath the soil before the field ever blooms. A single drop of water falls before the flood. A single voice rises before a song fills the sky. Change does not come because the world is ready. No, it comes because someone dares to believe it must. One woman with weary hands and a steady heart refuses to give up her seat, and in that refusal she shifts the weight of a nation. One man with nothing but truth in his throat speaks against injustice, and his words become the anthem of the oppressed. One student, tired of being told they are not enough, stands tall and dares to be excellent, and in doing so, they open the door for others to walk through. It is never easy to be the first. It is never comfortable to be the only. There will be doubters, there will be those who shake their heads, those who say, "You are just one. What can you do?" But oh, they forget. They forget that every great wave was once a single ripple, that every towering tree was once a lone root stretching into the unknown. Do not wait for the crowd to understand. Do not wait for the world to say, "Now is the time." The time is when you decide. The moment is when you move. The power is in your hands, your feet, your voice, your very breath. And when one rises, another will see, and another, until what was once a single step becomes a march a movement, a revolution of hearts and minds and souls, unafraid to claim the future as their own. So I ask you, who will be that one today? Who will dare to believe that they are enough? Because change does not wait. It does not ask permission. It does not come wrapped in comfort. It comes because one person refuses to sit still. And when that one rises, the world will never be the same again. Silence has never been the language of change. No, it is a heavy thing, a weight pressed down upon the shoulders of the weary, the unheard, the unseen. But one voice can break it wide open. One voice can split the stillness, shake the air, and turn a whisper into a roar. Do you know what happens when someone dares to speak? The world shifts. The ground beneath oppression cracks. The chains of fear loosen. Because words, true words, bold words, necessary words, are not just sounds floating through the air. They are fire. They are light. They are the beginning of something unstoppable. It does not take a crowd. It does not take an army. It takes one person standing in the midst of silence, refusing to be quiet any longer. History will tell you this is so. A woman, tired of being dismissed, stands before a room full of doubt and says, "I will be heard." A man with nothing but conviction in his soul raises his voice against injustice, and his words strike like thunder. A child, no more than 10, asks why the world cannot be kinder, and in that question an entire generation begins to listen. But make no mistake, there is risk in speaking. There are those who will cover their ears, those who will turn away, those who will say, "Be quiet, now is not the time." But when has silence ever saved a people? When has silence ever built a better tomorrow? They will call you too loud, let them. They will say you are causing trouble, so be it. They will tell you to wait, to be patient, to hush your truth until it is more convenient. But truth does not wait. Justice does not wait. Change does not come on tiptoe. It arrives with a voice that will not be swallowed. And here's the beauty of it. One voice never stays alone for long, because somewhere, someone is waiting to hear what you have to say. Someone is waiting for permission to speak their own truth. And when they hear you, they will know they are not alone. They will lift their heads, open their mouths, and soon what was once a single voice will become a chorus, a movement, a force too strong to be ignored. Do not think you are too small to be heard. Do not think your voice does not matter. The world has been changed too many times by the power of one voice for you to believe that lie. Speak. Speak with courage, with fire, with truth, because once you do, the silence will never be the same again. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is standing tall while fear whispers in your ear, telling you to sit down, to stay quiet, to let someone else fight the battle. But hear me now. Courage does not wait for comfort. Courage does not ask for permission. Courage moves, even when the ground shakes beneath its feet. It is easy to stay where it is safe. It is easy to fold your hands in your lap and say, maybe tomorrow. But tomorrow has never changed a thing without someone willing to risk today. And that someone is never the crowd. It is never the multitude. It is the one. The one who dares to step forward. The one who stands when others sit. The one who holds their head high even when the world tells them to bow. There is power in that kind of bravery. It does not need applause. It does not need agreement. It stands on its own, steady as a mountain, unmoved by the winds of doubt. And let me tell you, when one person finds that courage, it spreads. It moves like fire through the hearts of those who have waited too long, through the voices that have been hushed, through the hands that have been tied. Look back through time and you will see it. A young girl walks through school doors that were never meant to open for her, her steps small but unshaken. A man marches forward, knowing the road is dangerous but walking it anyway because justice does not come to those who stand still. A mother, tired of watching her children inherit a world built on broken promises, raises her voice, not just for herself, but for the ones who come after. That is courage. Not loud, not reckless, but sure, steady, a force that does not flinch, even when fear tries to wrap its arms around it. And fear will try, it will come with doubt, with hesitation, with voices saying, you are only one, what difference can you make? But courage knows better. Courage has seen the power of one, and let me tell you this, once courage has taken root, it does not stay in one place. It moves, it calls to others, reminding them that they too have a choice. They too can stand, they too can fight for something greater than themselves. So I ask you, will you be the one? Will you stand when it is hard? Will you speak when silence is easier? Because courage does not wait, and neither should you. A single step forward may seem small, but do not be fooled. It carries the weight of change upon it. One act, one decision, one choice to move when staying still feels safer can turn the course of history. Too often, we wait. We wait for the perfect moment, for the right circumstances, for someone else to go first. But hear me now, change does not wait, and neither should you. There is power in the smallest of actions, a hand reaching out, a word spoken in truth, a foot placed firmly in a path no one else dares to walk. These things may seem like nothing in the grand scheme of the world, but what is a river if not a collection of single drops? What is a fire if not a single spark that caught and spread? One student stands up to injustice in a classroom, and suddenly others find their voices. One worker refuses to accept unfair treatment, and before long the workplace is no longer the same. One stranger shows kindness in a place where kindness is rare, and that act ripples outward, touching lives that were never even in its direct path. That is how movements begin, not in loud declarations from the mountaintop, but in quiet, steady steps taken in the valley, steps that seem ordinary at first, but build upon one another until the world has no choice but to take notice. But the challenge is this: taking that first step requires faith. It requires you to believe that even if no one sees you, even if no one follows you right away, even if you do not see the full result of your action, it still matters. And oh, it does, because one step leads to another, and then another, and before long what seemed impossible now seems inevitable. The world may not shift overnight, but every great change began because someone, just one person, chose to act instead of waiting. Do not wait, do not let hesitation hold you in place. The steps you take today, however small, will echo into tomorrow, and when they do, the world will be different because you dared to move. History does not remember those who stood in the shadows waiting for permission to be bold. It remembers the ones who stepped forward, who risked, who defied, who stood alone before anyone else dared to join them. It remembers the fearless one, not fearless because they felt no fear, but fearless because they did not let fear stop them, because the weight of their conviction was heavier than their doubt, because they knew that change, real and lasting change, does not come from waiting for the world to be ready. It comes from making the world ready. Look back and you will see them. The ones who stood when the rest sat down. The ones who spoke when silence was expected. The ones who walked forward when the path was still rough and unpaved. They were not always welcomed. They were not always celebrated. In fact, many were ridiculed, shunned, cast aside. But they walked anyway. They spoke anyway. They stood anyway. One woman dared to say, I am not less. One man dared to say, we deserve more. One child dared to say, why not? And because of them, doors opened, laws changed, justice inched closer to truth. And yet, in their time, they were told to wait, to be careful, to stay in their place. Because the world will always resist the ones who challenge it. The world will always try to quiet the voices that shake it awake. But history is not written by those who bow to hesitation. It is written by those who refuse to. It is written by the one who stands when it is hard, by the one who moves when standing still would be easier, by the one who risks comfort for something greater than themselves. It is written by those who understand that fear will always be there, whispering its doubts, but courage is the answer that drowns it out. And here's the truth. The world is waiting for another fearless one, another voice to rise, another step to be taken, another heart to refuse to break beneath the weight of resistance. Will that one be you? Because history is waiting, the future is waiting, and it only takes one to begin. The world is filled with darkness, fear that silences voices, injustice that crushes spirits, doubt that keeps feet from moving. It is easy to look around and say, what can I do? I am only one. But let me tell you, one light is all it takes to break the dark. One candle in a pitch-black room changes everything. One spark in the coldest night brings warmth. One flame in a world of shadows is enough to show the way. And when one light shines, another sees it, and then another, until suddenly what was once darkness is now a sky full of stars. Be the light. It does not mean you have to be the loudest. It does not mean you must have power, riches, or fame. Light does not need a stage. It does not ask for permission to glow. It simply shines, steady and sure, regardless of who notices. A kind word when silence is heavy. A bold truth when lies are easier. A helping hand when no one else is willing to reach out. These things may seem small, but oh, they are not. A single act of goodness, a single moment of courage, a single decision to stand for what is right. These are the things that illuminate the world. They catch fire. They spread. They move through people's hearts, through time, through generations. Think of those who came before us, the ones who refused to be dimmed, the ones who, in a world that told them to sit down, to quiet down, to fade into the background, said, no, I will shine. They did not wait for the right moment, for perfect circumstances, for someone else to go first. They became the light. And because of them, we can see, and now it is your turn. The world is waiting for your glow, for your fire, for your courage to stand bright in the face of the dark. So shine. Shine even when others do not understand. Shine even when it feels lonely. Shine because when you do, you make it possible for others to shine too. And before long, the whole world will be ablaze. The power of one is undeniable. One step forward sparks a movement. One voice breaks the silence. One act of courage inspires generations. One light in the darkness ignites 1,000 more. History has proven it, and the future depends on it. And now it is in your hands. Will you be the one who dares to stand, to speak, to move, to shine? Will you be the spark that sets change in motion? The world is waiting, not for the many, but for the one who is bold enough to begin. Go forward with courage. Be the voice, the step, the light that transforms everything. And as you do, may you inspire others to find their own power, their own strength, their own voice. Good luck, and thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment, maybe quiet, maybe loud, when you feel the weight of everything settle into your bones. The road behind you stretches long and worn, and the road ahead disappears into a fog of uncertainty. You want to stop. You want to sit right where you are, fold your hands, and say to the world, I've done all I can. And yet, there is power in one more step. Just one. You see, strength does not always roar. Sometimes it is a whisper, sometimes it is a breath, sometimes it is a woman waking up with tears in her eyes but rising anyway. Sometimes it is a man walking home with empty pockets but his head held high. We are not made only of the easy days. We are not sculpted by sunshine alone. We are carved by fire, shaped by storms, born of the struggle, and molded by every single step we thought we could not take, but did anyway. One more step is not a march, it is not a run, it is not a leap, it is the smallest movement in the world that carries the biggest weight. It is you saying to life, I am still here. It is you speaking your truth, not with grand speeches, but with quiet defiance. You may cry, you may stumble, you may drag your heart across the floor, but still you take that one more step. There are times when you give all you've got, and still the door stays closed. You try every angle, you pour in every ounce of your effort, your faith, your time, and your hope, and nothing seems to move. It feels like the mountain is too high, the burden too heavy, and your strength is slipping away. The temptation to stop becomes louder than the desire to continue. But right there in that quiet pause where giving up seems the only option, there lies the power of one more step. It's not the step of the strong necessarily. It's not the step of the celebrated or the certain. It's the step of the willing, the step of the tired heart that says, I'll try again. And that one step, just that one, can be the shift that changes everything. Because life doesn't always respond to the loudest cry. Sometimes it responds to the quiet endurance that refuses to leave the battlefield. We imagine breakthroughs as grand moments, spotlights, triumphs, but the truth is breakthroughs are often born in silence. They come when no one's watching, when the air is thick with doubt and the night feels longer than your courage. That one more step, taken in pain and fear, in absolute uncertainty, can be the one that cracks open the stone wall you've been pushing against for years. Think of all the people who stood at the edge of surrender and chose to inch forward. Writers who faced rejection after rejection before finally hearing yes. Athletes who failed more times than they succeeded but kept lacing up their shoes. Parents who worked double shifts, not because they weren't exhausted, but because they loved too deeply to stop. Every one of them had a choice: stop or step. And those who chose the step, just one more, found that life had been waiting to meet them right there. One more step is not about having it all figured out. It is not about pretending you're not scared or tired or broken. It is about honoring your journey enough to not end it too soon. It is about trusting that something on the other side of struggle might just be worth the pain it takes to get there. And even if you don't know what that something is, even if it feels far and uncertain, you step anyway. Because the truth is, you've already come too far. You've already fought too many battles. You've already survived what some people could not. And if all that effort brought you here, maybe, just maybe, it's preparing you for something more. The power of one more step is not in how big it is, but in how brave it is. It carries with it the lessons of the past, the weight of your effort, and the whisper of your future. It is the moment that says, I'm still in this. It is the breath that fuels your purpose. It is the motion that keeps your dream alive even when your vision blurs. So when you find yourself weary and the world feels too heavy to hold, remember this. You don't have to know the whole path. You just have to take one more step. Every step taken in exhaustion holds a truth that cannot be faked. It speaks louder than victory speeches and echoes deeper than applause. When the body is worn and the spirit is frayed, but you choose to move forward anyway, that is strength in its purest form. Not strength polished by pride or dressed in perfection, but strength shaped in the fires of persistence and carved in the shadows of fatigue. That one step, taken not because you feel powerful, but because you refuse to be defeated, becomes your greatest proof of resilience. There are moments in life when you're not just tired, you are spent. The kind of tired that seeps into your bones, that quiets your laughter and dulls your light. You might wake up and the sun feels distant, the day feels heavy, and the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other feels like too much. And yet, something inside you stirs, a quiet reminder that you've walked through storms before, that you've bled and healed, fallen and risen, that even if no one sees your pain, even if no one cheers for your effort, your journey still matters. And so, you take that step. It's not for the world, it's not for applause, it's not even for the finish line. It's for your own soul, to remind yourself that you are still here, still moving, still trying. That step made in exhaustion carries a kind of power no comfortable moment could ever teach. It is in that step where endurance becomes identity, where courage is born not in triumph, but in choosing to continue when every voice inside you says stop. Some might see you and wonder why you bother, why you don't quit. They don't know what that step means to you. They don't know the battles you've fought in silence, the nights you stayed up holding yourself together, the weight you carry in your chest that you've never put into words. But you know the cost of giving up. You know that the dream inside you is still breathing, even if faintly. So you keep moving, even if your legs tremble and your heart aches. In exhaustion, the world slows down, the noise dims. What remains is the core of who you are, the truth of your grit, the depth of your will. No mask, no illusion, just you and your decision. And that is where greatness is quietly born, not in fanfare, not in grand arrivals, but in the small, stubborn steps of the weary who refuse to lie down. So don't wait to feel strong. Don't wait until the burden lifts or the way clears. Take that step now exactly as you are, tired, messy, human. And know that with every breathless inch forward, you are building a life not just of survival, but of meaning. You are showing the world, and more importantly yourself, that your strength is not defined by how easy the path is, but by how committed you are to walking it anyway. And sometimes that one step taken in exhaustion becomes the one that changes everything. Sometimes the answer we've been waiting for, hoping for, praying for, does not arrive with lightning or celebration. Sometimes it waits quietly, tucked behind one more step we have not yet taken. That single motion forward when we are unsure and questioning everything can be the doorway to a truth we've longed to see. It may not shout its arrival, it may whisper. But it holds the power to shift everything we once thought was impossible. We often ask for signs. We search for clarity. We want the roadmap, the full view, the final outcome. But life rarely hands us that luxury. Instead, it gives us moments, raw, uncertain, sometimes trembling, and asks us to choose. To trust that even though we do not yet see the light, it might greet us just beyond our next breath, that the answer we've been chasing might be closer than it seems, hidden just past the point where most give up. One more step, just one. That step can be the one that leads us into a room we didn't know existed, the right conversation, the perfect connection, the release from something we no longer need to carry. But we must be willing to move, to lean in, to believe that there is still something waiting to meet our effort, even when our mind is clouded by fear and our heart is worn thin. We must hold on to that small hope that the next step might reveal the reason we never quit. We've all known the frustration of reaching and reaching, only to come up empty. We know what it feels like to knock and hear silence, to try and fail, to ask and be met with more waiting. But often the process itself is shaping us. It is building us to hold the answer when it finally comes. And sometimes that delay we curse is not punishment, it is preparation. It is strengthening the foundation so that when the moment does come, we are ready for it. The danger lies in stopping too soon, in convincing ourselves that nothing will change, that no shift will come, that it's all in vain. But what if the very next step was the turning point? What if it held the moment when everything begins to align? What if all the pieces finally start to make sense, not because the path got easier, but because we chose to stay with it just long enough? The answers we seek don't always arrive in the timing we prefer. They don't always look the way we expected, but they do come. They find those who are brave enough to continue without certainty, who keep moving even when the path is dim. There is something sacred in walking through doubt with faith. There is a strength that forms only in the hearts of those who carry on without evidence, without guarantees. That one more step might not feel powerful in the moment. It might feel ordinary, even invisible, but the courage it holds is extraordinary. It is the quiet bravery that often changes the course of a life. It is the moment the question begins to turn into clarity. It is the beginning of the answer. So take that next step, even if you're unsure, because the answer you've been longing for may be waiting right there. Greatness is not always loud. It does not always arrive with fireworks or applause. More often than not, it hides behind the smallest choices, the ones nobody sees, the ones nobody celebrates. And perhaps the greatest of them all is the choice to not quit, to stay in the fight, to take one more step, even when the world has stopped believing in you and even when you've started to doubt yourself. That simple act of continuing when everything in you whispers no more is where greatness quietly begins to rise. We think greatness belongs only to the chosen few, the bold, the brilliant, the ones who seem to walk without fear. But true greatness does not bloom in ease. It grows through adversity, through heartache, through the moments when giving up would be the easier path. The decision to keep going is not always driven by confidence. Sometimes it is driven by memory the memory of why you started, by the belief that your struggle has a purpose, that there is something meaningful waiting on the other side of your exhaustion. It doesn't have to be a leap, just a step, a breath, a motion forward that defies the weight of your weariness. That is where greatness lives, not in grand performances, but in quiet persistence, in waking up one more day determined to show up for your life, in picking yourself up after 100 falls and daring to rise once again. That is the fire that lights the path ahead, even when it feels like you are walking through shadows. And while others may not notice your effort, your soul does. Every time you choose not to quit, your spirit grows stronger. You build a resilience that nothing can steal. You learn that even without certainty, you can still move. Even without strength, you can still stand. Even without answers, you can still believe. There will be days when your knees feel weak, when the silence feels endless, when your faith wavers under the weight of all that hasn't happened yet, but still you take one more step. You carry your scars and your hope in the same body. You hold grief in one hand and courage in the other. And though your heart may be tired, it still beats with purpose. That one more step, small as it may seem, is a bold declaration. It is you saying to the universe, I'm not done. And sometimes that step holds the beginning of something beautiful, something you can't yet see, but something that's been waiting for you to arrive. Greatness was never about never falling. It was about rising again and again and again. Do not underestimate the power of staying the course. Do not doubt the value of continuing when others would stop. There is something holy about persistence, something noble in endurance. There is strength in your struggle, and there is glory in your journey. One more step is not small, it is sacred. And in the quiet persistence of not giving up, you become more than you ever imagined. There's a kind of growth that comfort can never offer, a strength that only shows itself when the ground beneath you trembles and nothing feels certain. In those moments when you're stretched thin, when the pressure is high and the path is steep, something within you begins to take shape. That is where resilience is born, not in the softness of easy days, but in the firm decision to take one more step through discomfort, through doubt, through the unknown. Comfort is tempting. It lulls you into stillness, wraps you in familiarity, and convinces you that you've done enough. But progress doesn't live there. It lives in the places that ask more of you. It lives in the second wind that follows exhaustion, in the discipline that rises when motivation fades, and in the courage it takes to move forward when there are no guarantees. That next step, even when difficult, even when uncertain, becomes the training ground for your spirit. Every moment of discomfort teaches you who you are, and more importantly, who you are becoming. The truth is, if you only walk when the sun is shining, you'll miss the lessons hidden in the rain. If you only move forward when everything feels right, you'll never know what you're capable of when nothing does. The process of becoming is not gentle, it is raw. It demands that you face your fears, confront your weaknesses, and carry yourself through days that test the very limits of your patience and perseverance. But it is in those very moments, in that resistance, where your resilience is forged. You learn to endure. You learn to bend without breaking. You learn that pain is not always a punishment. Sometimes it's a passage, a necessary crossing toward your next chapter. And the beautiful truth is that every single step you take through adversity becomes a foundation under your feet. You may not notice it in the moment, but you are building a version of yourself who is wiser, stronger, more grounded than the one who began the journey. There is power in repetition. There is strength in consistency. The world celebrates big wins, but what truly shapes your destiny are the quiet choices. The decision to rise after a failure, the discipline to show up when you'd rather hide, the faith to take one more step into the unknown. Every step taken through resistance carves out a deeper capacity within you. It stretches your threshold for challenge, sharpens your focus, and widens your understanding of what you can survive. And yes, it may hurt. Growth often does, but that pain is purposeful. That ache is a signal that you are in motion, that you are expanding, that you are not settling for what is easy, but choosing what is necessary. And in doing so, you are setting yourself apart, not with arrogance, but with endurance, not with noise, but with quiet strength. So the next time you feel the urge to pause, to settle, to stay where it's comfortable, remember that the discomfort you're feeling now is shaping a resilience that will carry you through storms. It's building a strength that no one can take from you. Comfort may feel good, but it is resistance that grows you. Take that one more step through the challenge. It's not just progress, it's transformation. The journey to purpose rarely reveals itself in a single moment. It doesn't flash in bright lights or arrive with a clear sign. More often, it unfolds step by step, slowly and quietly, through the simple act of moving forward, even when the destination remains unknown. We search for purpose like it's hidden treasure, thinking it will suddenly appear when the time is right. But the truth is, it is uncovered in motion, in walking, in continuing. One more step, no matter how small, brings you closer, not just to a goal, but to a deeper understanding of why you are here. You do not have to see the full picture to know you are building something. You do not have to hear applause to know your steps matter. The process itself is sacred, and while it may feel slow or unclear, there is wisdom growing in you with every forward inch. Purpose isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper you only hear when you're willing to keep walking through the quiet. Sometimes it waits for you in the places you almost didn't reach because doubt nearly made you turn around, because you didn't stop. You kept going. Maybe you didn't know why. Maybe you questioned every part of it, but you still moved. And that choice, That single act of courage is what begins to uncover the path beneath your feet. It's in that kind of faith, the kind that walks without a full map, that purpose begins to reveal itself. It's not waiting at the end. It's growing inside you with every step. Each movement forward carves out something eternal in your spirit. With every moment of resistance that you push through, with every challenge that does not defeat you, with every doubt you walk beside instead of surrendering to, something within you aligns a little more. You become clearer, not always certain, but more connected to the truth of your own life. You begin to recognize that the journey itself is shaping the very thing you've been searching for. And when the hard days come, and they will, you'll remember that you've already survived 1,000 others. You'll remember that your purpose was never about perfection, it was about presence. About showing up for your own life with honesty and heart. About taking one more step even when you feel small. Even when the road curves and clouds block your view. Sometimes that next step feels useless, feels invisible, feels like it leads nowhere, but it doesn't. Every step taken with intention adds to the story. Every time you choose not to give up, you place another stone in the foundation of something meaningful. The small actions you repeat in faith build the path you've been looking for, and without even realizing it, you find yourself living in the answer that once seemed far away. So keep walking, even if the purpose is not fully clear. Keep moving, even if the reward is not yet visible. Trust that the path you're carving with each step is leading you closer to something real, something lasting, something you were always meant to find. One more step is not just a motion forward. It is a declaration of belief in the process. A quiet promise to yourself that your journey has value even in the unseen. And it is through these steady, unseen steps that your purpose begins to bloom right beneath your feet. And so let this be the reminder you carry with you that the power of one more step is not just about progress, it's about transformation. It is the quiet defiance of giving up, the gentle courage to keep going, and the unshakable belief that even the smallest movement forward can change the entire direction of your life. Whether you're weary or unsure, whether you can see the path or not, trust that each step you take is building something greater than you can yet imagine. Keep stepping even when it's hard. Keep moving even when it's slow. Greatness is being shaped in the persistence you show today. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for walking this path with open heart and brave spirit. Hello, everyone. There is a power that we often forget, a power so simple and yet so mighty. It is not the sound of thunder, not the rush of a storm, not the noise of a crowd. It is the pause, the stillness between the notes of a song, the quiet space between one thought and the next, the gentle silence where strength is born. When life presses on us and the world demands more than we think we have, we rush and we stumble, we reach and we chase. But there is a truth that whispers to us. It says, slow down. It says, be still. It says, listen. In the pause, the heart finds its rhythm again. In the stillness, the spirit gathers its courage. Every great decision comes not from panic, but from patience. Every healing begins not in noise, but in quiet. The pause is not weakness. It is wisdom dressed in silence. It is a teacher that waits for us to notice. When we master stillness, we master the art of hearing our own voice and the greater voice beyond it. The pause is not emptiness, it is the space where clarity is born. Too often, we confuse silence with nothingness, stillness with idleness, and waiting with weakness. But the truth is far greater. There is a sacred power in the pause, a gift that can only be seen when we stop running from moment to moment without looking, without listening, without truly being present. In our rush to move forward, we forget that the pause is not a void, but a vessel. It holds the answers that our hurried minds cannot hear. It carries the wisdom that noise drowns out. It opens the path that frantic steps cannot find. Think of how life unfolds. A song is not only the notes, but the spaces between them. Without the pause, the melody would collapse into noise. A conversation is not only the words, but the silences that give them weight. Without the pause, our speech would be a storm without direction. Even the beating of the heart depends on the pause between pulses, for it is in that space that life regains its rhythm. So too, our lives are shaped not only by our actions, but by our moments of stillness. The pause is the frame that gives meaning to motion. When we live without pausing, we begin to live blindly. We make choices out of habit instead of understanding. We react instead of responding. We mistake movement for progress and noise for purpose. But when we pause, the fog begins to clear. We see where we are, who we are, and what truly matters. In that stillness, the clutter of the world settles, and clarity rises like the sun breaking through the dawn. There will always be those who fear stillness, who run from silence as though it might reveal something too deep, too heavy, or too real. But the pause does not come to burden us, it comes to bless us. It allows us to examine the path we walk, to hear the quiet wisdom inside us, and to touch the truth that cannot be spoken in haste. It reminds us that our value does not come from how quickly we move, but from how deeply we live. The pause gives us permission to be human, to stop chasing every demand and every noise, to breathe, to reflect, to heal. In the rush of the world, we often wear masks, hiding behind the speed of our lives. But in the pause, the masks fall away, and what remains is the real self, the self that does not need to prove or perform, but only to be. In that stillness, we discover the courage to live with intention rather than impulse. Great leaders, great thinkers, great artists all have known the power of the pause. They did not find clarity in constant motion, but in moments of stillness where ideas gathered strength and vision became clear. The pause is the canvas upon which creation paints its masterpiece. Without that space, brilliance cannot take shape. And in our own lives, it is the same. We cannot see the full picture while rushing through it. We must pause to let it unfold. The pause is not emptiness. It is fullness waiting to be seen. It is not wasted time. It is invested time. It is the birthplace of clarity, and clarity is the light that guides every meaningful step forward. When you master the art of pausing, you will no longer confuse speed with success. You will no longer mistake noise for importance. You will understand that clarity is the quiet force that allows you to move with purpose, with wisdom, and with power. So let us learn to embrace the pause, for it is in that sacred stillness that we find direction, courage, and the strength to go on. Stillness is not the absence of power. It is the birthplace of true strength. Many people believe that power is only found in constant movement, in loud voices and endless activity, but that is only the surface. True strength does not always roar. It often rests quietly, gathering, growing, and waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Stillness is not weakness, it is preparation. It is the soil where courage takes root and the ground where wisdom stands tall. When the world pushes us to always do more, say more, and move faster, it is easy to mistake silence for surrender. But look closer and you will see that stillness is not surrender at all. It is choosing to hold your peace when anger calls for reaction. It is choosing to breathe when pressure demands haste. It is choosing to listen when the crowd shouts to be heard. In that quiet choice lies strength greater than any noise. It takes more courage to remain calm in the storm than to rage with the winds. It takes more wisdom to stay still and thoughtful than to rush forward without direction. Nature itself teaches us this truth. The mountain does not move, yet its strength commands respect. The ocean has moments of stillness that are deeper and more powerful than its waves. The great tree grows silently, without noise or rush, and yet it holds the power to shelter, to stand through storms, to last for centuries. Their strength is not in constant movement, but in the quiet force that does not need to prove itself. Our lives can be the same when we learn the art of stillness. In stillness, we find discipline. We discover that strength is not always the power to act, but also the power to wait, the power to withhold, the power to rise only when the moment is right. Stillness does not mean we stop living. It means we live more intentionally. It means we choose our words carefully. We weigh our actions wisely, and we do not let the noise of others dictate the rhythm of our own journey. That kind of strength is unshakable because it is not built on impulse, but on awareness. Think of the people who inspire us most. They are not always the loudest in the room, nor the ones who rush to prove themselves. They are often the ones who speak few words, but words that carry weight. They are the ones who do not waste their energy on every battle, but save their strength for the battles that truly matter. Their stillness is not emptiness, it is presence. Their silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. And that is where real power lies. Stillness also allows us to connect with ourselves. When we are constantly in motion, we lose touch with our own hearts. We forget what we truly need, what we truly value. But in stillness, we hear our own voice again. We discover strength not borrowed from the world, but rising from within. We stop depending on external noise to define us because we have found a deeper power that does not need applause or approval. It is the strength of knowing who we are and standing firm in that truth. There will always be times when the world will try to shake us, when circumstances will test us, when noise will surround us. In those moments, stillness becomes our greatest strength. It allows us to respond with clarity instead of confusion. It gives us the steadiness to remain unbroken when life tries to bend us. And it teaches us that power is not about controlling everything, but about mastering ourselves. Stillness is not the absence of power, it is its very beginning. It is the quiet place where strength is born, where patience grows, where courage finds its home. To embrace stillness is to embrace true power, the kind that endures, the kind that lifts us above the noise, the kind that makes us unshakable. And so let us not run from stillness, but walk into it. For it is there that we will find the strength we have been searching for. The pause allows the heart to breathe and the mind to see beyond confusion. In the noise of life, we often forget that both the heart and the mind need rest just as the body does. We demand so much from ourselves, rushing from one task to another, filling every moment with movement, every silence with sound. Yet it is in the pause that we find balance again. It is in those quiet moments that the heart exhales, releasing its burdens, and the mind clears away the fog that constant motion creates. Without the pause, we move, but we do not see. We act, but we do not understand. We exist, but we do not live deeply. There is a difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is born of haste, but response is born of pause. When the heart is overwhelmed, it beats faster, carrying the weight of stress and fear. When the mind is crowded with noise, it stumbles in confusion. But if we stop, if we breathe, if we give ourselves permission to pause, everything begins to shift. The heart slows down. The mind begins to untangle the knots. The confusion that seemed so heavy suddenly loses its grip, because stillness has given us room to see clearly. We cannot make wise choices in a state of constant rush. The pause creates the space where wisdom can enter. When we allow the heart to breathe, we let compassion rise instead of anger. When we allow the mind to rest, we let clarity rise instead of chaos. The pause does not erase the problems we face, but it changes how we face them. It transforms panic into patience and confusion into understanding. It is in the pause that we move from fear to faith, from doubt to decision, from noise to knowing. Think of a storm cloud. When it first forms, it is heavy, dark, and restless. But given time, the cloud releases its rain and the sky clears again. Our minds and hearts are much the same. When we carry too much, we feel dark, restless, confused. But when we pause, we release. We allow our inner storm to settle, and suddenly we can see the light again. The pause is the clearing of the sky within us. It is the gentle rain that makes room for clarity and peace. Too often, people believe they must always push through without stopping. They think pausing is weakness, or wasting time, or falling behind, yet it is quite the opposite. The pause is what allows us to move forward with direction instead of running in circles. The pause is what makes our steps steady and strong. Without it, we may go faster, but we also lose our way. With it, we may seem to slow down, but we move with purpose and with vision. There are moments in every life when confusion feels too heavy to carry. In those moments, the pause becomes not just helpful but necessary. It is an act of kindness toward ourselves. It is a reminder that we are not machines built to run endlessly. We are human beings who need time to breathe, time to feel, time to gather strength. The pause is where healing begins, where clarity blooms, where courage returns. It is not an interruption of life, it is part of life itself. The heart cannot live always in tension. The mind cannot thrive always in noise. Both must be given silence. Both must be given room to breathe. When we master the art of pausing, we master the art of living with clarity. We learn to listen to our own inner guidance, to hear what is true, to see beyond the surface of confusion into the deeper wisdom that waits within us. The pause allows the heart to breathe and the mind to see beyond confusion. And when we rise from that stillness, we rise not lost but found, not heavy but light, not blind but with vision to walk forward in strength. In stillness, we learn that patience often achieves what haste cannot. The world we live in glorifies speed. We are told to hurry, to chase, to rush, as if the value of life can be measured only by how fast we move. But haste often blinds us. It pushes us to act before we are ready, to decide before we understand, to speak before we listen. And when we do, we find ourselves caught in regret, wishing we had waited, wishing we had paused, wishing we had chosen patience over impulse. Stillness gives us the gift of that patience. It slows the rush of time in our minds and allows us to see that the best things in life cannot be forced. They must be allowed to unfold. Think of how nature teaches patience. The seed does not rush to become a tree. It rests in the soil, hidden in stillness until the right moment comes for it to break open. The fruit does not ripen in an instant. It waits under the sun, slowly gathering sweetness until its time is right. The seasons turn one into another with grace, not with haste. In all these things, we see that life does not demand constant rushing, but constant trust. And just as the seed, the fruit, and the seasons, we too must learn to wait, to trust, to allow life its rhythm. Patience is not laziness. It is not standing still in fear. It is active faith. It is the strength to believe that what is meant for you will arrive in its time, not in your rush. Stillness teaches us this faith. When we quiet ourselves and stop pushing against the current, we discover that life has a way of carrying us where we need to go. Haste may get us somewhere quickly, but it often gets us to the wrong place. Patience may take longer, but it leads us to what is truly ours. There are moments when silence feels heavy, when waiting feels unbearable, when stillness feels like doing nothing. But in truth, stillness is doing more than we can see. It is shaping us, preparing us, building the foundation so that when the right time comes, we are ready to rise and stand strong. Haste builds on weak ground, but patience builds on rock. And when storms come, only one will endure. Think of your own life and the moments you have rushed. How often has haste led you to mistakes, to broken paths, to decisions you later wished you could undo? Now think of the times you waited, even when it was hard. Those moments may have tested you, but they gave you wisdom. They gave you strength. They gave you outcomes that could never have come from rushing. Stillness gave you patience, and patience gave you the fruit of your endurance. We must remember that patience is not about doing nothing. It is about doing what is necessary without forcing what is not ready. It is about holding steady while life unfolds, about trusting the process even when the result is not yet clear. Stillness gives us the power to hold this trust. It anchors us when everything else demands speed. It whispers to us that we do not need to chase what is meant for us. It will come not in our hurry, but in its season. Haste is born of fear. We rush because we are afraid of being left behind, afraid of missing out, afraid of not having enough. But patience is born of faith. It believes that nothing truly meant for us will ever pass us by. And this faith is strengthened in stillness, where we learn to quiet our fears and let trust grow in their place. In stillness, we learn that patience often achieves what haste cannot. And when we choose patience, we discover that what we waited for was worth it, and that the strength we gained in the waiting was the greatest gift of all. The pause is a quiet teacher that shows us the value of listening before acting. So often we rush into life, thinking that speed and volume will carry us forward, that the loudest voice, the fastest move, or the earliest answer is the measure of success. But the world has a way of humbling those who move without thought. When we fail to pause, we fail to listen. not only to others, but to ourselves. And it is in listening that wisdom is born, in listening that understanding grows, in listening that true action finds its purpose. The pause teaches us that before we speak, before we act, we must first hear. Listening is not just hearing words, it is opening the heart and mind to what is spoken and what remains unspoken. It is noticing the silence that lies between sentences, the emotion behind a glance, the lesson hidden in a challenge. In haste, we miss these subtleties. We react to noise instead of responding to meaning. But when we pause, we give ourselves the chance to truly hear, and in that hearing, we gain insight that cannot be rushed. The pause allows us to perceive the world with clarity, to understand what is needed, and to act with intention. There is a power in listening that is often overlooked. The world may celebrate those who speak first and act quickly, but history remembers those who listen deeply. Those who took the time to understand before responding often changed the course of lives, communities, and nations. Stillness grants us the patience to listen to the story beyond the surface, to understand motives, fears, and dreams. It teaches us that true leadership, true compassion, and true influence are built not on speaking over others, but on listening with presence and care. Even within ourselves, listening is a gift. In the pause, we hear our own thoughts with clarity. We feel our own hearts with honesty. We recognize what we truly need, what we truly value, and what path we are meant to follow. Without the pause, we may act according to the expectations of others, according to habit, or according to fleeting impulses. But when we listen to ourselves, we act with authenticity, and the steps we take are aligned with the truth of who we are. The pause also teaches humility. To listen is to admit that we do not have all the answers, that we cannot always control what comes next, that others hold perspectives we have yet to understand. In this humility, we find strength. We find the courage to wait, the patience to observe, and the wisdom to act at the right moment. Acting without listening may bring temporary gain, but listening before acting builds lasting impact. The pause reminds us that timing and understanding are as important as effort and intention. In relationships, in work, in every corner of life, the pause changes everything. How many conflicts could be softened if one person simply paused and listened? How many opportunities could be realized if we first took the time to understand before leaping into action? Stillness nurtures empathy, and empathy nurtures connection. When we master the art of listening, we master the art of meaningful interaction. Words spoken without listening may be heard, but they do not resonate. Actions taken without listening may succeed, but they do not endure. There will always be voices urging us to hurry, to speak first, to act immediately. Yet the pause reminds us that true power lies in measured steps. It is the quiet moments between thoughts that shape the strength of our choices. It is the silence before a word that determines its weight. It is the stillness that allows intention to rise above impulse. The pause is the bridge between chaos and clarity, between reaction and wisdom, between the heart and the world. The pause is a quiet teacher that shows us the value of listening before acting. And when we allow ourselves to learn from it, we find that our actions carry more meaning, our words carry more weight, and our lives move not with noise, but with purpose and grace. Stillness renews our spirit, giving us the courage to rise with purpose. Life has a way of wearing us down with its constant demands, its endless noise, and its relentless pace. We run from one task to another, from one obligation to the next, and in the process, we forget the one thing that matters most, ourselves. Our spirit, like a flame, needs time to breathe. It needs moments of quiet where it can gather strength, reflect, and grow. Stillness is that quiet. It is the sanctuary where our inner fire is renewed, where the heart finds its rhythm, and where the courage to continue rises from within. When we live without pause, we begin to lose touch with our own essence. We allow stress to shape us, anxiety to define us, and the opinions of others to steer us. But in stillness, we reclaim ourselves. In the pause, we reconnect with what is true, what is important, and what we were created to do. The world may demand constant motion, but the soul requires quiet to flourish. Without stillness, our courage fades, our clarity diminishes, and our purpose becomes clouded by noise. But when we stop even for a moment, the Spirit remembers who it is and what it is meant to do. Stillness gives us the courage to rise because it allows reflection. In the quiet, we see our challenges for what they truly are, not insurmountable walls, but lessons, tests, and opportunities to grow. We see our fears not as chains, but as invitations to step beyond comfort. We see our past not as a burden, but as a teacher that prepares us for the path ahead. Without stillness, we might stumble blindly through hardship. With it, we rise with understanding, with intention, and with resilience. The pause does not erase difficulty, but it strengthens our spirit so that we may face it fully and bravely. Every act of courage begins in stillness. The soldier must pause to aim. The artist must pause to envision. The leader must pause to think. The parent must pause to understand. Courage is not reckless speed. It is informed action born from a spirit that has been renewed in quiet. When we cultivate stillness, we cultivate courage, not the loud kind that seeks recognition, but the quiet kind that does the right thing even when no one is watching. That courage becomes the foundation upon which our purpose stands firm and unshaken. Stillness also heals. The mind and the heart carry scars from past failures, disappointments, and losses. If we ignore them, if we continue to rush, they fester, and our spirit becomes heavy with resentment, doubt, and fear. But when we pause, we give ourselves permission to feel, to release, and to restore. In that restoration, the spirit regains its light. In that renewal, the heart finds its rhythm. And in that rhythm, courage flows once again, guiding us to rise with purpose, to speak with clarity, and to act with strength. It is easy to confuse business with progress, motion with achievement, noise with value. But the truth is, the soul grows in stillness, not in speed. Every great accomplishment, every act of lasting impact begins with a moment of pause, a moment to listen to the heart, to trust the inner voice, and to align action with purpose. The pause does not stop life, it strengthens it. The pause does not waste time, it creates time for the spirit to rise. Even in the face of fear, uncertainty, and challenge, stillness renews the spirit. It reminds us that we are more than circumstance, more than opinion, more than struggle. It reminds us that the power to rise, the power to endure, and the power to fulfill our purpose has always been within us, waiting for the quiet moment when we are ready to claim it. The world may rush, but we do not need to. The heart may tremble, but the spirit does not falter. In stillness, courage awakens, and with courage we rise. Stillness renews our spirit, giving us the courage to rise with purpose. And when we embrace that quiet, we discover the strength to move forward not out of fear, but out of love, clarity, and unwavering resolve. The pause is not a delay in life. It is the wisdom that prepares us for it. So often, we mistake waiting for weakness, silence for inaction, and stillness for lost time. The world tells us to hurry, to rush, to seize the moment before it slips away. But in truth, the moments we spend in pause are not wasted. They are the foundation upon which meaningful action is built. The pause is where preparation meets insight. It is the quiet before the storm of accomplishment, the rest that strengthens us for the journey ahead, the invisible work that makes visible success possible. Life unfolds in its own rhythm, and we cannot force its pace without risking both clarity and purpose. To act without pause is to move blindly, to stumble through decisions without understanding, to speak without listening, and to chase goals without seeing the path clearly. But when we learn to pause, we learn to engage with life intentionally. We observe, we reflect, we consider, we listen. And through this preparation, we discover what is needed, what is wise, and what is truly aligned with our highest purpose. The pause is the moment when insight gathers, when the mind and heart align, and when the spirit strengthens itself for the work to come. The pause teaches us patience and discernment. We begin to understand that not every opportunity requires immediate action, that not every challenge demands an instant reaction, that not every voice around us needs our reply. In the quiet, we separate what is urgent from what is important, what is fleeting from what is lasting. And in that distinction, wisdom is born. The pause gives us the ability to act not merely because we can, but because we are ready. It reminds us that timing is as important as effort, that understanding is as vital as energy, and that preparation is as powerful as ambition. Consider the way the seasons prepare the world. Winter holds the earth in stillness so that spring may bloom with abundance. A tree rests unseen underground, gathering strength for the summer when its branches will bear fruit. The river slows not because it has forgotten its course, but because it must navigate the obstacles that lie ahead with care. So too our lives benefit from pause. We need these quiet moments to gather our own strength, to reflect on our direction, to ready ourselves for the challenges and triumphs that await. Without the pause, our actions may be hasty, our energy scattered, our purpose diluted. With it, our steps are deliberate, our hearts steady, and our vision clear. The pause also teaches humility. It reminds us that life is not ours to control entirely, that circumstances may test us, and that wisdom often comes from waiting and observing rather than forcing and demanding. When we pause, we acknowledge that we do not know everything, that we must prepare ourselves, and that patience is a greater ally than impatience. Humility and patience grow in stillness, and these qualities prepare us for decisions that are both thoughtful and transformative. They ensure that our actions are not only effective, but meaningful, not only immediate, but enduring. Even in personal growth, the pause is essential. Transformation cannot be rushed. The lessons we need to learn, the healing we must undergo, the clarity we seek, these require quiet and reflection. In rushing through life, we may accumulate experiences, but we may not absorb their meaning. In pausing, we internalize, we understand, we strengthen our foundation. And when we finally act, we act from a place of wisdom, with a heart that is steady and a mind that is clear. The pause is not idleness, it is preparation. It is the silent teacher that equips us for action, the hidden work that ensures our efforts are fruitful, the quiet power that supports visible strength. Those who master the pause understand that life's greatest achievements are not born from relentless speed, but from measured steps informed by insight. The pause makes us ready for what is to come. It does not delay life, it empowers life. The pause is not a delay in life, it is the wisdom that prepares us for it. And when we embrace it fully, we find that every action we take, every word we speak, and every choice we make carries the weight and clarity of a life lived with intention and purpose. As we reach the close of this reflection, let us remember that the power of pause is not simply a moment of silence, but a gateway to clarity, strength, patience, wisdom, and courage. In stillness, we reconnect with our hearts, renew our spirits, and prepare ourselves for the steps that truly matter. The world may rush and call us to hurry, but it is in the pause that we find the depth, the insight, and the power to rise with purpose. Each pause we embrace is not a delay, but an investment in the life we are meant to live, the actions we are meant to take, and the legacy we are meant to leave. So, step forward with the courage to pause, the wisdom to listen, and the strength to rise when the time is right. Let stillness guide your decisions, let patience shape your journey, and let clarity illuminate your path. Life will move quickly, but when you master the art of stillness, you will move with purpose, power, and grace. Good luck on your journey of pause and presence. Thank you for allowing me to share this moment with you. Hello, everyone. There is a time when words can heal and a time when words can break. There is a moment when silence is not weakness, but strength dressed in stillness. When voices rise and tempers burn, the quiet soul becomes a sanctuary. The one who refuses to wrestle in noise does not lose power. They gather it, they keep it safe. They let the storm pass and stand unharmed while others have already emptied themselves in anger. We have been taught to fight back with words, to prove, to correct, to defend, yet wisdom whispers another lesson. It tells us that silence during an argument is not the absence of thought, it is the presence of peace. It is the presence of understanding. It is the presence of a heart that values calm over chaos. When you remain silent in the middle of a quarrel, you are not surrendering. You are choosing to be greater than the fire, choosing to listen for what is truly being said beneath the shouting, choosing not to add fuel to a flame that is already bright enough to blind both souls. There comes a moment in every life when words rise up, ready to burst out like a flood. Anger presses at the lips, pride demands a response, and ego longs to have the final say. Yet the one who understands the art of silence knows a deeper truth. To hold your tongue when provoked is not weakness. To remain calm when attacked is not surrender. It is mastery over self. It is the discipline of strength, the kind that is invisible to the eye but unshakable in its presence. We often believe that power is shown in the ability to win an argument, to outtalk, to outsmart, to defeat the other person with clever words. But when emotions run high, logic disappears. In those heated moments, no one is really listening. Every voice shouts only to be heard, not to understand. And so the argument becomes a storm of sound with no peace at the end. Yet when one person chooses silence, the storm loses its grip. When one soul stands still, the fire finds no fuel and slowly fades. That is not weakness, that is mastery. Silence in an argument is a deliberate choice. It is not the silence of fear or the silence of defeat. It is the silence of one who has already won the greatest battle, the battle against their own impulses. To master yourself is the highest form of power. The tongue is quick, but wisdom is slow. The heart rushes to defend, but the spirit waits. And in that waiting, strength is born. Think of the moments in life when silence saved you, when your reply could have broken a bond forever, but your restraint kept the bridge intact. When anger pushed you to say something you would later regret, but silence carried you through until the feeling passed. That is the unseen victory of self-mastery. No applause may follow, no one may thank you for it, but the reward is greater than recognition. It is the peace you keep within yourself, the peace no argument can steal. Silence is also a teacher. It reveals the truth of others while protecting your own dignity. When you do not respond to provocation, you let the other person show their true colors. They expose their weakness while you remain in strength. They may raise their voice, but your quiet presence speaks louder. It tells them you will not be pulled down into the chaos. It tells them you belong to peace, not to noise. Mastery over self is not easy. It takes courage to walk away when every part of you wants to fight back. It takes wisdom to hold your tongue when the perfect insult sits ready on the tip of it. It takes faith to believe that silence will speak louder than your defense. But those who have mastered themselves know that silence is a shield. It protects you from regret, from wasted energy, from wounds that take too long to heal. To stay silent during an argument is to own your power fully. You are no longer controlled by anger. You are no longer pulled by the strings of pride. You are no longer a prisoner to the moment. You become free. You rise above. And in that rising, you discover that the one who can hold their peace in the midst of noise is the one who truly holds power. So let silence be your strength. Let it be your calm in the storm, your crown in the fire. Remember always that silence in an argument is not weakness. It is mastery over self, and mastery over self is mastery over life. Respect is not earned by the loudness of a voice, but by the steadiness of a spirit. When emotions flare and tempers rise, many believe that the person who speaks the most, who defends with fire and force, is the one who holds authority. Yet in truth, it is often the quiet soul who commands the greatest respect. Silence during an argument does not strip you of your power. It magnifies it. It shows that you are not easily shaken, that your worth is not tied to winning or proving, that your dignity does not bend to the noise around you. The loud voice may gather attention, but attention and respect are not the same. People may look at the one who shouts, but they remember the one who stayed composed. They may hear the words of the angry, but they feel the presence of the calm. Silence in an argument sends a message that words alone cannot carry. It says, I do not need to shout to be heard. I do not need to fight to stand strong. My peace is my answer, and my calm is my reply. Think of the people you admire in your life. Often it is not those who lose control in anger, who raise their voices to prove their point. It is those who hold their ground without raising their tone, those who choose restraint over retaliation. Their silence is not emptiness, it is authority. It speaks of an inner strength that does not waver under pressure. It tells you that they know themselves, and in knowing themselves, they need no one else's validation. The quiet soul earns respect because silence carries weight. It is heavy with patience, with control, with wisdom. In the heat of an argument, words often fall carelessly, but silence falls with intention. It shows that you are not a prisoner to the moment. You are bigger than the situation, stronger than the noise, and wiser than the need to respond. Others recognize that strength even if they cannot admit it in the moment. They see that while anger burns out quickly, silence endures and leaves a lasting impression. There is a beauty in restraint that the world does not always celebrate, but always respects. To hold back when provoked is to show that your character cannot be dictated by someone else's behavior. It means you have chosen not to let another person's storm drown your peace. It means you have decided that your spirit is too valuable to be wasted in noise. That quiet decision, invisible as it may seem, carries more authority than 1,000 words spoken in anger. Arguments often end with both sides feeling unheard, bruised by words that cannot be taken back. But when one side chooses silence, the argument loses its fuel. The energy fades because silence refuses to play the game. And in that stillness, others may begin to reflect. They may see their own anger for what it is. They may recognize the dignity of the one who stayed calm. Respect grows not in the moment of conflict, but in the memory of it, when people recall who stood strong without shouting. The quiet soul commands respect because they remind the world that power does not have to be loud. Power can be calm. Power can be gentle. Power can be silent and still stronger than all the shouting in the room. And in that silence, people find something they cannot argue with. They find strength, they find dignity, they find respect. So when you find yourself in the fire of an argument, do not be afraid to be the quiet one. Do not mistake your silence for weakness, and do not let others convince you that it is. For the quiet soul commands more respect than the loud voice, and that respect is worth more than any victory in a quarrel. Peace is the greatest treasure a soul can carry, yet it is the very thing most easily stolen in the middle of an argument. Anger comes quickly, uninvited and sharp, and before we know it, words are rushing out that do not belong to the heart, but to the heat of the moment. Those words can pierce, they can wound, they can linger long after the noise has faded. But silence has the power to protect your peace while anger only seeks to steal it. When two voices collide in conflict, the atmosphere fills with tension. Every word becomes a weapon, every sentence a strike. In that clash, peace is the first to disappear. Anger grabs it, tears it apart, and leaves behind only bitterness. Yet the one who chooses silence refuses to give anger that victory. They hold on to their calm as if it were sacred, because indeed it is. Silence becomes a shield, a gentle but unbreakable wall that guards the heart from being consumed by chaos. Anger demands an instant response. It pushes you to speak, to defend, to attack back. It tricks you into believing that silence is losing, that quietness means weakness. But the truth is quite the opposite. Every time you answer anger with anger, you give away a piece of your peace. You let the fire burn within you, and the more you feed it, the more it takes. Silence, however, keeps your peace intact. It does not surrender it. It does not allow anyone to rob you of it. It stands firm, reminding you that your calm is too precious to be exchanged for temporary satisfaction. Peace is not something that falls into our laps. It is something we must guard with intention. Life will present countless opportunities for conflict, countless moments when someone's words or actions try to pull you into battle. But you always have a choice. You can give in to anger and let it steal the calm that took years to build, or you can stay silent and let that calm remain unshaken. Silence says to anger, "You will not have me. You will not take from me what I value most." The protection silence provides is not just for the moment, but for the days that follow. When anger takes your peace, regret often follows close behind. You replay the words you spoke, the tone you used, the pain you caused. Regret becomes a heavy shadow. But when you hold your silence, when you refuse to let anger rob you, there is nothing to carry later. You walk away lighter, freer, still whole. Silence may be hard in the moment, but it saves you from a burden that lingers long after the argument ends. Silence also teaches you to listen, not only to the other person, but to yourself. It allows you to hear the voice of reason, the quiet whisper of wisdom that anger always drowns out. It gives you time to breathe, to reflect, to remember that peace is worth more than being right, more than proving a point, more than winning the battle. Silence gives you the clarity to see what anger blinds you to, that holding your peace is the greatest victory of all. People often admire those who remain calm under pressure. They notice the ones who do not let anger shake them. They respect the strength it takes to protect peace instead of letting it be stolen. And though they may not say it in the heat of the moment, they remember it later. They remember that while everyone else was loud, you were steady. While others gave away their calm, you protected yours. And that memory plants respect in their hearts, even if they never speak it aloud. Peace cannot live where anger rules, but silence creates space for peace to stay. It creates a safe ground for your soul to rest on even when everything around you is burning. So when the choice is placed before you, when anger comes knocking, demanding to take your calm, remember the power of silence. Let it guard you. Let it protect you. Let it keep your peace safe, for peace once kept is worth more than any argument won. Arguments have a way of stretching longer than they should. What could end in a breath often lingers for hours, sometimes even for days, because both sides keep pouring fuel into the fire. Each word spoken in anger becomes a spark that keeps the flames alive. But when one person chooses silence, the flame begins to die. The argument loses its air, and what seemed impossible to stop begins to settle. Silence holds a power that noise can never match. Arguments end faster when one chooses calm over noise. We have been taught to believe that if we do not defend ourselves in the heat of the moment, we lose. That if we do not answer back with equal intensity, we appear weak. But in truth, silence is not about losing, it is about choosing. It is about deciding what is more important, prolonging a storm or stepping into peace. When you choose silence, you are not giving in. You are guiding the situation toward an ending. You are saying, this conflict does not deserve to live longer than it already has. An argument can only continue if both sides are feeding it. Think of it as a rope being pulled. As long as both hands pull, the struggle continues. But the moment one hand lets go, the rope falls limp and the tension ends. Silence is that release. It is the letting go that breaks the cycle. Without your contribution, the argument cannot carry on with the same strength. And even if the other voice keeps rising, eventually it runs out of breath, because it is hard to fight with someone who refuses to fight back. Calm is not passive, calm is active. It takes great effort to remain silent when your heart is burning with the need to respond. But calm is a decision that carries weight. It tells the other person, you may raise your voice, you may throw your words, but I will not give you the reaction you are looking for. I choose peace. I choose dignity. I choose to end this here. And slowly the fire begins to die down. What could have been a long night of bitterness becomes a shorter storm with less damage left behind. Arguments that drag on often leave scars. They leave behind words that cannot be taken back, broken trust that takes time to rebuild, pain that lingers in silence long after the noise has stopped. But when silence steps in early, the damage is minimized. The wound is smaller. The peace returns sooner. Silence acts like water on fire. It does not make a show of itself. It simply cools the heat until nothing remains but quiet ground. There is also wisdom in silence because it gives time for reflection. When you choose not to respond instantly, you allow emotions to settle, and with that settling comes understanding. Many times, people realize on their own that the fight was not worth it. They see more clearly when they are not being opposed. Your silence gives space for that realization. It does not escalate, it de-escalates. And in that stillness, truth often reveals itself without force. Those who argue with calmness and silence are often remembered differently than those who argue with noise. People see the one who held their peace as the stronger one. They remember that while tempers flared, someone had the wisdom to step back. They respect the restraint it took, and they recognize that it was the calm choice that allowed the conflict to end sooner. Arguments thrive on reaction. They grow when they are fed. But silence starves them. Calm strips them of their energy. And when the energy fades, so does the argument. Choosing silence is choosing to end the cycle before it consumes more than it should. It is choosing to protect both yourself and the other person from damage that words cannot repair. So remember this: arguments are not won by being the loudest. They are ended by being the calmest. And when one chooses silence, the fire cannot survive. Arguments end faster when one chooses calm over noise. True strength is not shown in how loud you can shout or how sharp your words can cut. True strength lives in restraint, in the ability to hold back when everything in you wants to let go. In the middle of an argument, anger disguises itself as power. It whispers that striking back will prove your worth, that a quick response will win you respect. But wisdom knows better. Wisdom knows that retaliation is easy, but restraint is rare. Anyone can fight fire with fire, but it takes someone strong to stand in the flames and not let them consume their soul. There is a common belief that to be silent in an argument is to be weak, that only the timid walk away. Yet it is not the timid who stay silent. It is the strong. It is the ones who know that their dignity is more valuable than a temporary victory. It is the ones who have the courage to remain calm when provoked, who understand that peace is greater than pride. Restraint is not the absence of strength. It is its highest expression. When you retaliate in anger, you hand over control. You allow another person's words to dictate your actions, their emotions to shape your own. But when you practice restraint, you show mastery over yourself. You decide what deserves your energy and what does not. That decision is power. That decision is freedom. No one else gets to control your response because you have already chosen to rise above it. Restraint also carries grace. It does not shame the other person, nor does it escalate the fire. It stands with quiet dignity, reminding everyone that chaos does not deserve your spirit. In a world that praises loudness and quick reactions, the act of holding back becomes even more powerful. It sets you apart. It makes others pause. They may not admit it in the heat of the moment, but they feel the strength it takes to remain silent. They know deep inside that what you did required far more courage than any insult they threw. Think of the times in your life when you responded in anger. The words may have felt powerful in the moment, but what followed? Regret, broken trust, heavy silence that no apology could fully heal. Retaliation satisfies the moment, but it often costs the future. Restraint, however, saves you from that regret. It preserves your peace, your relationships, and your self-respect. It tells the world that you value your growth more than you value winning an argument. True strength and restraint is not only for others, it is for yourself. Every time you hold back, you build discipline. You teach yourself that you are not a slave to anger, that you can feel it rise and still choose calm. That kind of self-mastery shapes character. It molds you into someone who cannot be shaken by noise, someone who stands steady no matter the storm. And with every practice of restraint, you grow stronger, not weaker. It is easy to confuse reaction with strength. Reaction is quick, explosive, and loud, but it fades. Restraint is quiet, steady, and enduring. It is not about proving yourself in the moment, but proving to yourself who you truly are over time. It is about rising above rather than sinking down. It is about showing that you have control not only over your words, but over your heart. When you stand in restraint, you embody a power that arguments cannot touch. You protect your dignity, you keep your peace, and you show the world that strength is not in fighting every battle, but in knowing which battles are not worth fighting at all. And that is the kind of strength that lasts. So let your silence be your proof. Let your restraint be your strength. For true strength is shown in restraint, not retaliation, and those who understand this truth rise above the noise every time. Wisdom does not always arrive in the noise of an argument. More often, it walks gently in the stillness that follows. When tempers rise and words clash, no one is truly listening. Each voice is fighting to be louder than the other, and in that competition, truth gets lost. But silence, chosen with intention, creates space for wisdom to speak louder than words ever could. When you hold back, when you let the other person pour out their storm, you begin to hear more than their anger. You begin to hear the story behind it, the pain beneath it, the fear hidden inside it. That is something words cannot reveal when you are too busy shouting back. Silence in an argument is not emptiness, it is awareness. It is the ability to stand still and let understanding rise from beneath the surface. Often the loudest person in the room believes they are the strongest, but strength without wisdom is fragile. The one who listens, who observes, who waits becomes the one who truly understands. And understanding is what heals conflicts, not clever words or sharp comebacks. When you stay silent, you give yourself time to process. You allow your heart to settle before your mouth speaks. You let reason step forward while emotion takes a step back. In that quiet moment, you gain perspective. You begin to see that not every argument needs an answer, not every insult deserves a reply, and not every conflict must be won. Silence clears the fog of anger and gives you the clarity to recognize what truly matters. That clarity is wisdom in its purest form. Silence also teaches patience. Patience is not simply waiting for the other person to stop speaking. It is waiting for the right words to be born. Words spoken in anger often create wounds, but words spoken in patience carry healing. Silence is what gives birth to those patient words. It is what allows wisdom to shape your response so that when you finally do speak, your voice carries weight. People remember not the many words spoken in anger, but the few words spoken with wisdom after silence. There is a beauty in restraint because it allows wisdom to reveal itself naturally. When you choose silence, you give space for the truth to rise without being forced. Many times, the other person will hear themselves more clearly when you are quiet. They will recognize the flaws in their own words, the weakness in their own reasoning. Your silence becomes a mirror for them, and wisdom shines not through your correction, but through their realization. That is a power words alone cannot achieve. We must understand that wisdom does not always need to shout. Wisdom does not compete with noise. It waits for silence because silence amplifies it. Imagine a storm raging outside, lightning striking, thunder rolling. In the middle of that storm, it is hard to notice anything else. But when the storm ends and stillness arrives, suddenly you see the world more clearly. That is what silence does in an argument. It lets the storm pass so wisdom can be seen for what it is. The person who remains silent in conflict is often misunderstood in the moment. Some may think they are weak. Some may think they have nothing to say. But time always reveals the truth. People look back and realize that the silent one was the wise one, that their calmness carried more strength than any raised voice. Respect grows for the one who did not rush to speak, for the one who allowed wisdom to lead instead of ego. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of thought. It is the soil where wisdom takes root and grows into something powerful. And when wisdom speaks, it does not need many words, nor does it need volume. It speaks in truth, in clarity, in calm. That is why silence allows wisdom to speak louder than words. So when you find yourself standing in the middle of conflict, do not be afraid to hold your tongue. Do not be afraid to let silence do the work. For silence is not a weakness, it is the stage where wisdom rises. And wisdom, once it speaks, will always be louder than words. Chaos has a way of tempting us. When voices are raised and anger fills the air, it pulls us in, asking us to join, daring us to throw our words like stones into the fire. But the soul that chooses silence in such a moment is a soul that has chosen dignity above chaos. It is easy to lose yourself when emotions are running high. It is easy to abandon your grace in exchange for one small victory in an argument. But dignity does not trade itself for noise. Dignity knows that silence carries more weight than words spoken in anger ever will. When you choose silence, you are not only protecting yourself from saying something you may regret, you are also protecting the image of who you are. Chaos tries to strip you of your honor. It tries to drag you into a place where voices are wild and careless. But silence refuses that invitation. Silence stands tall and steady. It tells the world that your value does not depend on proving a point, that your worth is not measured by how many arguments you win, but by the respect you maintain even in conflict. Dignity shines most brightly when it is tested. Anyone can appear strong when life is calm, when there is nothing to provoke them. But when the fire rises, when accusations and insults fly, that is when true character is revealed. Do you match chaos with chaos, or do you rise above it? Do you allow anger to define you, or do you let silence guard your dignity? It is in those heated moments that your silence becomes a crown. You may not say a word, but you are speaking volumes. People often remember not what was said in the argument, but how each person carried themselves. They remember who lost control and who remained composed. They remember who allowed anger to make them small and who allowed silence to make them greater. Dignity leaves a mark long after words have faded. It stays in the memory of others and in the peace of your own heart. Choosing silence does not mean that you are blind to the wrong being done, nor does it mean you are indifferent. It means you are wise enough to know that lowering yourself into chaos will not solve it. It means you understand that arguments fought in noise rarely lead to truth, but often to regret. By choosing silence, you preserve your grace, and in doing so, you teach others that dignity cannot be shaken by the loudness of others. Chaos is desperate for company. It cannot survive alone. It needs you to respond. It needs your voice to keep its fire burning. But when you choose silence, you deny it the company it craves. You let chaos consume itself while you remain untouched. That choice is power. That choice is strength. That choice is dignity standing tall. Even if in the moment people do not see the value of your silence, time will reveal it. The dust will settle, the emotions will cool, and then truth will rise. People will look back and recognize that your silence was not weakness but wisdom. They will see that your dignity stayed intact while chaos destroyed itself. And deep inside, they will respect you for it. There is a quiet kind of victory in choosing dignity over chaos. It may not look like triumph in the eyes of those who confuse noise with power, but it is the kind of victory that lasts. It is the victory of keeping your peace, of guarding your spirit, of standing true to who you are without letting anger rewrite your story. So when arguments come and chaos calls your name, remember the power of silence. Let it wrap around you like armor. Let it keep your dignity untouched. Because choosing silence is choosing dignity above chaos, and that is a choice that will never lead you wrong. In the end, silence is not a sign of defeat, but a mark of wisdom. It is the quiet power that shields your peace, preserves your dignity, and speaks louder than any words spoken in anger. Arguments will come and storms will rise, but the one who masters the art of silence stands taller than the noise. Remember always that calmness is strength, restraint is victory, and silence in the right moment is a crown no one can take away. Carry this truth into your life, let it guide you in your conflicts, and let it remind you that the strongest voice is often the one that chooses not to speak. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for giving me the honor of sharing these words with you.